Coming up on Double Tap TV.
With all these new streaming services, we check out some accessible options to tune in. And the bonus, they make your TV smarter.
The latest tech.
Second place, with a total of 5 points.
Interviews.
The most useful product we can at the lowest possible price.
Accessibility.
I'm loving it and I'm sticking with it.
This is Double Tap TV.
Welcome to another exciting edition of Double Tap TV. I am Marc, as always, with Stephen Scott. Stephen, thank you as always for being here. How do they get in touch with us if they want to?
Hey, thank you, Marc. It is great to be here, or as I often say at my age, it's nice to be anywhere, quite frankly. Lovely to be with you once again for another show. And yes, you can get in touch by emailing feedback at AMI.ca, or you can find us on Twitter, the hashtag as well, #AskDoubleTap, and of course on Twitter at Double Tap Canada. So I just did that to annoy you, because I know when you put the graphics up on screen, you have to do it in a certain order. I just thought I'd do that to annoy you.
You did quite a good job. Well, joining us this week, a friend of the show, tech enthusiast. He has a long history, a storied history in film and television and voiceover. Mitchell Whitfield, welcome to Double Tap TV. How are you feeling in sunny California?
I am doing great, gentlemen. Thank you for having me. And I think it's appropriate that coming off of saying annoying came my introduction, because I think that's a perfect segue to actually introducing me into the show. So I'm happy to annoy and inform at the same time.
Hey, Mitchell, good to have you here.
Don't think, Mitchell, that wasn't planned.
Thank you.
So guys, this week we are talking all about streaming, because in the past couple of months we've seen the launch of Apple TV Plus, we've seen the launch of Disney Plus, we've seen the Peacock service come to life sooner or later. Lots of options for streaming media out there, and we figured we get so many emails and so many questions about how people tune into this programming, so we figured let's reach out to Mitchell, who's in LA, and you're in Hollywood, right, Mitchell? So we're better to kick things off and talk about the streaming services in general. Guys, have you, and I'll start with you, Mitchell, have you had an experience yet with Apple TV Plus or the Disney's new streaming service?
Yeah, I mean, I've started watching. I'm enjoying the programming. I just think right now everyone is sort of finding their way to how this new world works. We've been talking about this both professionally and personally, Marc. What does this mean? And not just from an actor's perspective or someone in the industry, but what does this mean for the end consumer? Because we have all these great products coming out, of course, Disney Plus, Apple TV Plus, and I think people are sort of having to reevaluate not only how they watch, but how they purchase television, because now, I think we said, a couple of years ago that within 5 years, traditional sponsor-driven television might go the way of the dodo. And I think we're seeing the beginning of that now, when major studios and major tech companies start taking over the entertainment industry. What does that mean for traditional television? And is the consumer going to be willing to sort of stack multiple services to sort of pick and find the content that they want? And I think that's what people are going to be going through at the beginning. If they have to choose just a couple, how are they going to do that? So that's the conversation that I'm having with a lot of people right now on the consumer end and the industry side. I love all the stuff that I can consume, but which ones do I buy, and what's going to be the deciding factor? And I think that's what a lot of people are going through right now.
I think at the end of the day, I think we can all agree that the consumer is the one that's going to win at the end of the day, but the consumer is also presented with a lot of choices. Yeah. Now, with these particular services and most recent services, Stephen, have you seen these launch in the UK? They're pretty much simultaneous worldwide, right? Which is a first lately when it comes to rights and programming.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Apple TV Plus is my go-to now for content. Of course I'm watching C, because there's blind people in it. Well, they're not blind people, they're acting as blind people. Hey, my life is full of blind people, and now I get the opportunity to meet people who aren't even blind, acting blind. It is brilliant. And what's brilliant, of course, about all of these shows from Apple TV, I'm kind of jesting, but Apple TV Plus is fully audio described in 8 different languages, captioned as well in the same number. The morning show is my favourite for now, and I'm enjoying the shows, I'm enjoying the content, I'm enjoying the fact it's accessible. So yeah, Apple TV Plus is a winner for me. Disney I don't watch because I'm not a big child, Marc.
Oh, come on, you are a big child, and I think a lot of people will agree with me. Guys, you know what? We're going to take a quick break because we're going to dive into the actual products themselves and how to actually access this kind of programming, because there are no shortage of ways for you to tune into these brand new streaming services, plus all the streaming services we've been used to, the Amazons of the world and the Netflixes of the world. So let's take a quick break. Again, it's feedback at AMI.ca, at Double Tap Canada with the hashtag AskDoubleTap is the Twitter address. Stick around, we're going to come back and talk about all these ways you can tune in.
For more great Double Tap TV content, visit AMI.ca/DoubleTap. This is Double Tap TV.
We are back on Double Tap TV. Marc Aflalo, Stephen Scott, and Mitchell Whitfield joining you this week. We're talking all about streaming and streaming media devices. If you guys want to get involved, we welcome that. Our email address is feedback@AMI.ca. On Twitter, it is @DoubleTapCanada. Use the hashtag AskDoubleTap. This way, we can filter it out and get to your questions pretty quick, which we do almost every show. And this show is actually pretty much devoted to you guys because it's all about the questions you've been asking about streaming media devices. So, Stephen, let's kick things off here and talk about the one that you've got kind of in your hands, or at least at your disposal, which is the it's Amazon. Amazon always has a solution for us, right?
Yeah, so I thought I'd try something a bit different. A lot of people might assume by listening to the radio show that I'm going to talk about the Apple TV. I'm not. I'm going to talk about this. It's the Fire TV Cube. Now, how can I describe it to you? I think it's like a watch box. You know those watch boxes you get to keep your nice watches in? I think it's like one of those in terms of size. It's quite small. It's a cube. I mean, the clue is in the name. They're quite smart, these guys at Amazon, you know. It's very standard. If you've got an Echo Dot, it's the same amount of buttons on the top. 4 buttons. You've got your volume up and down. You've got your mute button, and you've got your connect button as well. So you can actually speak to Lady A without actually pressing or saying her name, which I'm trying not to say here. This connects to your TV via an HDMI cable, and it also comes with a smart little cable that lets you replicate your remote control. So you can actually control your television with your voice. Now, it all sounds very lovely. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't see the point in this thing. I have no idea what this is for. The Fire TV Stick, which I have to tell you is a downside cheaper, is a lot better and does exactly the same job really, with minus the ability to turn your TV on and off with your voice. Do we really care about that? I mean, is that really that big a deal? I've tried it out. I think the accessibility on it is brilliant. You can have voice view, which means that you can navigate your television using the remote control that comes with the device, and it will speak everything to you, all of the Prime Video content, Netflix content as well, all of that fully described, the menu system fully described. A lot of those third-party apps, though, not so well described. That's often down to the third-party developer, so some of your local TV channels or some of your on-demand services may not be quite as accessible through this device. But generally, a decent machine. But, you know, as much as I kind of liked playing around with the Fire TV Cube, it's the Fire TV Stick, really, that I think you'd want to buy.
So what's interesting, you mentioned that, you know, the third-party apps aren't terribly accessible, or at least it's up to them to make sure their apps are accessible. When you transition towards the Apple TV, for example, Apple has done a really good job at making sure that at least developers have the tools they need to make sure that their apps can be accessible from the get-go, which is why, you know, this is the perfect segue into what you're about to bring up, Mitchell, which is the Apple TV, because virtually all the apps are accessible thanks to that operating system, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's really a lot of what you're buying. I think Stephen will agree with this. When you're going with an Apple TV, one of its main advantages is the Apple ecosystem.
Yeah.
And, you know, Apple has that walled garden, as they like to call it, where they like to keep people in their ecosystem. But I also think that they're realizing Apple TV, which started as very famously being called their hobby, is slowly becoming one of the more important parts of their lineup, because Apple has transitioned from a computer company a few years ago to basically a services and mobile company now. So this Apple TV is a true gateway product, and along with the accessibility, we'll talk about the design really quickly first. If you can imagine maybe a hockey puck about twice its normal size with more of a rounded square shape to it, then you pretty much can imagine what an Apple TV is like. Fits in the palm of your hand, very smooth edges, really no physical buttons on the Apple TV itself, very simple, very intuitive, easy to hook up. There's a place for a power cable that goes into the wall, HDMI port, and that's really about it. And then, of course, you have the Apple TV remote, which is also kind of genius in its design, very flat. Imagine maybe a pack of Wrigley's gum, old school Wrigley gum, but flattened out and a little bit larger, and you kind of get an idea of how thin and flat this device is, and it fits nicely in the hand. It has a touch screen on the top that you can use, basically a touch pad that you can use as a mouse to operate the Apple TV remote, and very simple button layout on there, not very many buttons on there at all, very intuitive. And in terms of accessibility, I found myself using it, never looking at the remote, just doing it by touch. I was able to operate it very easily. And I think voice control is an area where Apple TV excels on the hardware side really, really well. I've tried all the other streaming devices. A lot of them have voice control as well, but none of them seem to recognize natural speech as well as Apple TV does through its remote, through a one-button operation. So on the hardware side, very impressive, very intuitive, incredibly accessible. And in terms of the software, again, very intuitive design, very simplistic. I'm kind of surprised that Apple hasn't gone a little further with it, maybe again hiding behind this whole, this is our hobby, but such an important part of their lineup because this is your way to access through your Apple TV all of your photos that you've taken on your iPhone, that you have stored on your Mac. Everything sort of comes together through the iCloud ecosystem and is accessible through your Apple TV. So you have access to all your photos, all of your music, all of your purchased movies, all of your purchased television shows, all of the games that you play mobilely on your television. You can also play them. So it's one place for everything. And I find I've always been a big fan of Apple TV because I have been a part of that ecosystem for so long, but I think Apple is realizing, and this is what makes the product so important, guys. I want to know what you guys think about this. Apple is realizing that at the end of the day, a lot of people are still making their choices in terms of a computer. Well, I want to go PC. Well, for a phone, I want to go Android. And they realize that if they just stick with their own ecosystem, they're not going to get that huge customer base that they really want. And the way that you do that is through services and software that's platform agnostic. And we're going to see Apple TV apps everywhere on all different kinds of devices, embedded into televisions, accessible through Android, through computer. So this, to me, it used to be, I think, the iPhone was the way into everyone's heart, into the Apple ecosystem. But if you look at iCloud and Apple TV and these services, this, to me, is really the new way into everyone's house. And I think I'd like to see them maybe go a little further, updating their hardware a little more frequently. The design is absolutely brilliant and everything works really well. As I said, intuitive, great apps, limited compared to some of the other streaming devices, but great if you already have Apple products. I'd like to see them go a little further on the hardware side, see newer iterations coming out more frequently, because clearly, no matter what Apple says, this is going to be a lot more than a hobby for them, especially from this point forward.
I find it really interesting, Mitchell, because you're absolutely right. Although I will say I think the Apple TV may well be doomed. And that sounds like a strange thing to say, considering they're just bringing out their TV Plus service now this year. It is out, it is live. But the fact is that I think what Apple are quite keen to do here is actually get rid of the physical hardware and move towards apps. We're starting to see the Apple TV app become available in other places. So on the Fire TV Stick, on Samsung TVs. And that's really interesting, because the more we see that happen, then the need for the physical box goes away. And of course, that's a lot better for Apple, isn't it? You don't have to then produce all this hardware. And I should say as well, on the Fire TV, I'm getting reports that the Apple TV app, very accessible.
Yeah, and you know what, Stephen, you're absolutely right, because it kind of goes in with exactly what I was saying. I was almost contradicting myself, where they're more of a services and software company, and getting away from the hardware is where they're going, and that makes perfect sense. You remember not long ago, they were talking about making an Apple physical TV, a physical Apple television, with the service built in, with Apple TV service built in, which would be a colossal mistake, because, again, if your idea is to get into everyone's household, Apple is not known for underpricing their products. So an Apple television, you can imagine the price point they were going to come in at. If what they really want is to get you with the services, like you said, let other vendors, let Samsungs of the world, who are already putting Apple TV as part of their package for their smart TVs, let them do it, sell the services to everyone else, and as you said, don't worry about the hardware. That makes great sense.
You know, guys, you make an excellent point about the Apple TV app now being available on different devices and different streaming services. But you know what? Apple TV, Amazon, I still have my favorite, which I haven't had a chance to get even talk about. So let's take a quick break and let's show you guys how you can access all this stuff on a smart TV and talk about my favorite, which is Roku. It is Double Tap TV, Marc, Stephen Scott, and Mitchell Whitfield this week. Feedback at AMI.ca. On Twitter, it is at DoubleTapCanada. Use the hashtag @DoubleTap. We take a break and come right back.
Love Double Tap TV? Listen to AMI Audio for Double Tap Canada every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern for news and reviews on everything tech. This is Double Tap TV.
We are back on Double Tap TV. Marc and Stephen Scott with you as always. This week we're joined by Mitchell Whitfield. Thank you guys for being here. Feedback at AMI.ca. The Twitter address is at DoubleTapCanada, and don't forget the hashtag AskDoubleTap. So, we've touched upon Apple TV, we've touched upon the Fire Stick and the Amazon Fire Cube, but right behind me, gentlemen, I've got a beautiful 55-inch, I feel like I'm on like Wheel of Fortune or something here. This is a 55-inch LG OLED TV. And the reason I have this behind me, not just because they sent it to me and want me to talk about it, but thanks to smart TVs these days, you can actually get a lot of these services, for example, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Apple TV Plus, right on your smart TV. So if you're in the market for a new TV, you can actually get one of these TVs. And by the way, the smart TVs aren't as expensive as you might think. And once you're on any of these televisions, getting those apps is actually quite simple. All you have to do is navigate to their home menu, which is typically illustrated by a home button on the remote, and you go to their app store, and then you'll be presented with kind of like a myriad of all their apps and services, and you'll be able to find things like your Amazon Primes of the world and your Apple TV Plus, and you'll be able to install that directly on your TV. But the other reason that I have this TV in front of me, and the other reason I have some other cool devices right next to me, is because there are people who don't want to go out and buy a smart television. So enter devices like Roku. Roku, and Mitchell and I have been talking about this, and Steve and I have been talking about this. These are great kind of replacement devices for media streamers. They start at $29 depending on which one you want. They've got an Express, which comes with this little kind of, I mean, to describe the actual set-top box, I mean, Mitchell, you can help me describe this. It's smaller than the Apple TV. It's almost the size of the Fire TV stick itself. I'd say, you know, back in the day, we used to say compare it to the size of a pack of cigarettes, but it's really the size of a pack of a chewing gum, right?
Yeah, it's if you think of like a slightly larger USB drive. I think that's almost the best way to describe it. And I'm just amazed. And this is why it kills me that Apple couldn't do something like Roku does, because Roku makes it so portable and so easy. It kind of makes me frustrated. And that's why I keep saying I wish Apple would get on the Roku boat.
Yeah, which would be really cool. And they have so many different devices. They got the Express, which is, of course, that set-top box. Everything, and I'm going to sound like I'm selling here, but I really do love these devices. They come with the HDMI cable. They come with the power cable. They come with the batteries.
How much are you getting for this, Mark? That's my question.
I'm not getting anything. I don't even get to keep these. I don't get to keep these, guys. They even come with the batteries for the remote itself. And, Steven, check this out. There's more. They've got the Roku Premiere, which is their higher end. You've got 4K HDR on this device. The cool big difference that I really love about this one is that on the remote itself, there's a headphone jack on the side. So you can plug in a headphone and actually listen quietly without waking your partner in bed if you wanted to. That's great. And wait, there's more.
No way.
Yes.
Go on, Mark.
There's the Roku Streaming Stick Plus, which is my personal favorite because this is exactly like the Fire Stick. You can travel with this anywhere, and it has your Roku account built in. So you plug it into a hotel, and you can continue where you left off with all your favorite shows, whether it be Netflix, whether it be Amazon Prime, whether it be Apple TV Plus, whether it be Disney Plus, etc., etc. The last thing I want to demonstrate here is actually a Roku operating system built into a TV, or built right into a TV. This is a TCL TV. They make them by Vizio. They make them by Hisense. And what happens is instead of needing these, set-top boxes, watch, throw them out the window. Instead of needing those, you turn on the TV and you're presented right away with the actual Roku interface. The same interface you would get if you're using their streaming stick, the same interface if you're using any of their set-top boxes, built right into your television. And it's 100% accessible, which means you can navigate this with voice. You can turn on quote-unquote voiceover. They call it something different. And you can navigate it quite freely. The remote is the same.
Whoa.
Okay.
You're changing the world here. And you don't even realize it. So hang on, this has got some kind of... I mean, this is all great what you're saying, but I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, but is any of this accessible to me? It is, you're saying. It's got voice built in. Wow.
It's got a screen reader built in so that as you navigate through the menus, you're actually able to hear everything that goes on. And because they lay it out very similarly to like Apple TV in that grid form, everything is there and everything follows that same kind of flow rules that you have in, for example, Windows or even Mac OS. And the other neat thing about Roku in general, and again, guys, they're not paying us to do this, I just really love their interface, is that when it's built into a television, you get all your favorites, you get all these apps that you can enjoy, so much free content. So you don't actually have to pay for stuff that's out there, which is neat because the discoverability element of it is neat because it shows you a lot of programming that you didn't realize you don't have to pay for anymore. So if that's what you're into, if you're into discovering new content, this is a great way to do it, and having it built into a television is just a bonus as well.
And you know what, Mark? I mean, we talk about companies playing to their strengths, and some companies do it better than others, and some companies discover it later than others. Because Roku has been doing this longer than any other company, and we're talking about the streaming game, and of course, even getting their software on televisions built in, they have more content than probably any of the other streaming services combined. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of Roku channels. So if you have a certain thing that you love, that you're into, that you want to watch, odds are Roku has a channel for it already. And even this many years later, companies like Amazon and Apple are still trying to play catch up because Roku had such a head start and became the name associated with streaming. So in terms of content and variety of content, Roku, I think is really hard to beat.
No, I agree. And Stephen, I'm sure you're kind of on side with that as well, right?
Well, I'm intrigued to try this thing. I mean, I don't get any of these things sent
You've never
to me.
tried Roku?
Only other people get sent to them for nothing. I've got to go and buy one, I guess. Oh, well. But no, this is intriguing. I mean, I have heard that Roku have made a lot of strides towards making their content, well, their box certainly, more accessible. That I will be interested in. Because look, guys, for you guys have got working eyes. That's great. But for people like me out there who are thinking, this all sounds lovely, does it work? Well, you know what? We have to put it to the test, and we've got to try it out, because if it works, you know, that price point from $29, what a great way to get access to streaming channels. And like you say, what I love about this is you don't have to subscribe necessarily. There's a lot of free content out there. So that's really good. I like it.
Yeah,
I love free
really
stuff. I'm Scottish. I love free.
Listen, I'm gonna post a couple of these to you in the mail so that you can have them. I don't need them. They can send you some.
Yeah, you only get about 50 of them in the post a week, don't you? It's just they just give them away to you. I'll have that LG as well. I'll have that LG.
I wish I got paid for this stuff, but no, I don't. I just we kind of love talking about this stuff that we love talking about. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I love talking about streaming. I love talking with the two of you. The three of us are going to be together at CES in the new year, so that's going to be an exciting time, and that's a little tease for what's coming down the road on Double Tap TV. Thank you guys for being here. Email address feedback@AMI.ca. The Twitter handle is @DoubleTapCanada. Use that hashtag, which is AskDoubleTap. On behalf of Mitchell Whitfield and Stephen Scott, I am Marc Aflalo. We'll see you guys again soon.
For more great Double Tap TV content, visit AMI.ca/DoubleTap.
Hosted by Marc Aflalo and Stephen Scott. Contributor Mitchell Whitfield. Editing Marc Aflalo and Will Latar. Integrated as scribe video specialist Ron Rickford. Coordinating producer Jennifer Johnson. Director production Karen Nye. Director programming Brian Perdue. VP programming and production John Melville. President and CEO David Arrington. Copyright 2019 Accessible Media Inc.